Welcome dear students. Today we are going to discuss the seventh chapter from your Beehives book, which is the lesson packing. So as we'll proceed with this has been taken from Three Men in a Boat by Jerome K. Jerome. We have discussed in class. So as you can see, one more of this is one of the pictures from the covers. These are the three men in the dog Montmorency we have discussed in the lesson, and this is the writer Jerome K. Jerome. Okay, so now I'll be explaining line by line. Please pay attention. I said I'd pack. So the narrator is writing the account in a first person perspective. So it is Jerome who's actually writing. He said that he would pack. I rather pride myself on my packing. Packing is one of those many things I feel I know more than any other person living. It surprises me myself sometimes how many such things there are. So actually the language which is he is using is very hyper exaggerating, and he uses this kind of a rhetoric language to again and again prompt at things. Okay, so he says he prides himself on packing, and he doesn't know how many such skills that he has that no other person living could ever have. Okay, so the language is always hyperbolic. I impressed the fact upon George and Harris and told them that they had better leave the whole matter entirely to me. So he told the two of the members who were with him that they can leave the entire matter to him. They fell into the suggestion with a readiness that had something uncanny about it. As you can see, this is the page of the book. So some meanings are given here only. Uncanny means strange and weird. So there was something which he did not like. George spread himself over the easy chair and Harris cocked his legs on the table. So they were very easy about going about the things, and they did not take him lightly. What he wanted to do was not fulfilled. This was hardly what I intended. What I had meant, of course, was that I should boss the job. He wanted to teach them how to pack. He did not wanted to labor about himself, and that Harris and George should potter about under my directions. He wanted them to learn. What do we mean by potter about? It is to do some unimportant things. That is, they should come and ask again and again, and he will say like this, "Oh, you, here, let me do it. There you are, simple enough." Really teaching them, as you might say. He wanted to teach the art of packing to these two people. They're taking it in the way they did irritated me. He was very irritated by this fact. There is nothing does irritate me more than seeing other people sitting about doing nothing when I am working. So he is very much annoyed by the fact, and as you can see how these two people are sitting and the narrator himself is working with the packages. Okay, I lived with a man once who used to make me mad that way. He would loll on the sofa and watch me doing things by the hour together. So now he says that he lived with a man who would sit on the sofa. Loll on the sofa is lie on the sofa. He said it did him real good to look on at me messing about, and he liked seeing Jerome messing about. Now I am not like that. I can't sit still and see another man slaving and working. I want to get up and superintend. So he has this natural abilities of superintending things and telling people how to work. Okay, and walk around with my hands in my pockets and tell him what to do. It is my energetic nature. I can't help it. So as I told you, the language used is hyperbolic, and he's again and again praising himself. Okay, so he says that I am like that. Like helping people. I like to intend people. I can supervise them how to go about things. However, I did not say anything but started the packing. It seemed a longer job than I had thought it was going to be, but I got the bag finished at last and I sat on it and strapped it. So finally, he has put the buckles, the straps of the bag. Now, what does Harris say now? Ain't you going to put the boots in? So he's asking, are you not going to put my boots inside? And I looked round and found I had forgotten them. So he says that he was very good at packing. Then how can he forget these boots? And what are boots? Boots are basically shoes. Okay, that's just like Harris. He couldn't have said a word until I got the bag shut and strapped. Of course. So he could, Harris is also like this. He could have mentioned it earlier, but he was waiting for the opportunity to belittle him, to show him down. And George laughed, one of those irritating, senseless laughs of his. They do make me so wild. So he was very annoyed with his people. This is a picture of the boots, as you can see. So these are long kind of shoes that the people they traveling they wear. Okay, so now he was very annoyed with them. I opened the bag and packed the boots in, and then just I was about to going to close it, a horrible idea occurred to me. Had I packed my toothbrush? I don't know how it is, but I never do know whether I have packed my toothbrush. So toothbrush was one thing that kept on haunting his life all the more. Okay, he always used to forget his toothbrush. My toothbrush is a thing that haunts me when I am traveling and makes my life a misery. I dream I haven't packed it and and wake up in a cold perspiration, that is sweat, and get out of bed and hunt for it. And in the morning I pack it before I have used it and have to unpack again to get it. And it is always the last thing I turn out of the bag, and then I repack and forget it and have to rush upstairs for it at the last moment and carry it to the railway station wrapped up in a pocket handkerchief. So this is how his life becomes a misery, because he forgets. Sometimes he packs it and in the morning he takes it out and then he brushes his teeth and again he forgets to keep it, and at the last minute he is running with the handkerchief in his pocket. Okay, and as we have mentioned earlier in the class also, we have discussed, normally when we travel we keep a separate bag for toiletries, and we make sure that we are keeping either a separate toothbrush or we keep it in the morning and then pack it in a separate bag. But then these people don't have any sense of cleanliness, because you are going to see ahead what happens. Of course I had to turn every mortal thing out now, so everything that was there had to come out of the bag, and of course I could not find it. I rummaged the things up into much the same state they had. Rummaged is searching frantically, searching things in a manner that he's almost disturbing things. They might have been, must have been before the world was created. Again hyperbolic language. And when chaos reigned, when chaos was ruling, as if the time of dinosaurs. Okay, so he is comparing the kind of mess he has created to the time of the dinosaurs. Of course I found George's and Harris's 18 times over, but I couldn't find my own. So he could find Harris and George's toothbrush 18 times. I put the things back one by one and held up everything and shook it. Then I found it inside a boot. I repacked once more. So imagine the toothbrush lying inside a boot. As I told you, these people don't have any sense of cleanliness. So this is the worst part. When I had finished, George asked if the soap was in. I said I didn't care a hang whether the soap was in or whether it wasn't, and I slammed the bag shut and strapped it. He says I don't care if the soap is there or not, and found that I had pegged my spectacles in it and had to reopen it. It got shut finally by 10:05 p.m. and there remain the hampers to do. What are hampers? The food baskets. He says he's a excellent packer. Okay. Firstly, he forgot Harris's boots. Secondly, he is not sure about the toothbrush. And thirdly, when he is done with the toothbrush thing, he has packed his spectacles and he has to reopen and do it again. Okay, and so much time he has taken, and then he is saying that he has pride on his packing skills. Wonder how. Harris said that we should be wanting to start in less than 12 hours time, and thought that he and George had better do the rest, and I agreed and sat down, and they said and they had a go. So now Harris says that we have 12, less than 12 hours to go, and let us do the remaining because time is less. So they agreed to do the hampers. They began in a light-hearted spirit, a very good going mood, evidently intending, clearly intending, trying to show me how to do it. I made no comment, I only waited. With the exception of George, Harris is the worst packer in the world. And I told you to underline this line because this will come in the later answers. And I looked at the piles of plates and cups and kettles and bottles and jars and pies and stoves and cakes and tomatoes, etc., and felt that the thing would soon become exciting. So they have kept so many things together. The plates are, the cups are there, the kettle, the bottle, the jars, the pies, the stoves, cakes, tomatoes, everything lying together. It's a complete mess. It did. They started with breaking a cup. So they have finally managed to break something that was a cup. That was the first thing they did. They did that just to show you what they could do and to get you interested. Then Harris packed the strawberry jam on top of a tomato and squashed it. So you can imagine what kind of a scenario would this be: a tomato and then the jam is packed on top of the tomato, and then the tomato is squashed away. Okay, so this is how they did it, and they had to pick out the tomato with a teaspoon. A teaspoon is the smallest kind of a spoon that you get. And then it was George's turn. So this was done by Harris. Now what did George do? He trod on the butter. He stepped on the butter. I didn't say anything, but I came over and sat at the edge of the table and watched them. So as you can see in the picture, this is from the book itself. This is George. He has stepped on the butter, and this is the narrator Jerome. He's sitting here. Harris is doing the packing, keeping things on things. See the kind of things that are lying here. This is the dog. Montmorency is going to come next. See, he has stepped on the butter. The bread is lying here. So these people in the story, there's no sense of, I would say, cleanliness which is shown here, which is annoying. Okay, and then let's see what happens next. It irritated them more than anything I could have said. I felt that it made them nervous and excited, and they stepped on things and put things behind them, and they couldn't find them when they wanted them. So they were making a mess of things. They were keeping things in the back and they were not able to find them. And they packed the pies on the bottom and put heavy things on the top and smashed the pies in. Whenever we do packing, we always keep the lighter objects at the top and the heavy objects at the bottom, but they did the reverse. They upset salt over everything. Salt was lying over everything. And as for the butter, I never saw two men do with 1 and 2 pence worth of butter in my whole life than they did. What is 1 and 2 pence butter? Something which is costing very low. So they had made a complete mess of the butter. After George had got off his slipper, they tried to put it in the kettle. It wouldn't go in, and what was in wouldn't come out. So they were trying to put the butter taken out from the slippers inside the kettle. They did scrap it out at last and put it down on a chair, and Harris sat on it. So now they had to scrap out. They had to literally dig out the butter from the slippers, and they put it on the chair, and Harris sat on it and it stuck to him, and they went looking over it all over the room. So it was now the butter was sticking to his bottom. I'll take my oath, he says, I can say it, I can swear that I put down on the chair, said George, staring at the empty seat. Now the seat is empty because the butter is sticking to Harris's pants. I saw you do it myself not a minute ago, said Harris. Then they started round the room again looking for it, and then they met again in the center and stared at one another. Most extraordinary thing I have heard of, said George. So mysterious, said Harris. Then George got round of the back of Harris and saw it. So finally George saw that the butter was sticking to Harris's backside. Why, here it is all the time, he exclaimed indignantly, showing him down, okay, belittling him. Where? Cried Harris, spinning round. Stand still, can't you? Roared George. So George was very angry, flying after him. And then they got it off and packed it in the teapot. So finally they managed to keep this butter inside the teapot, which was firstly stepped up, then secondly it was kept on the seat, and Harris has sat on it, and they took it out and they kept it. Montmorency was in at all. So Montmorency is a very important character in the story. His ambition in life is to get in the way and he be sworn at. He wants to be cursed. If he can squirm in anywhere, squirm means if he can make noise, make sounds, or turn and twist and enter anywhere where he particularly is not wanted, and be a perfect nuisance, be a perfect complete misery, and make people mad and have things thrown at his head, then he feels that his day has not been wasted. So see what a weird kind of a dog he is. He always wants to be beaten or to be cursed upon. To get someone to stumble over, fall over, and curse him steadily, continuously for an hour is his highest aim and object. And when he has succeeded in accomplishing them, his conceit becomes quite unbearable. Conceit meaning is given in the book, it means pride over here. So it becomes unbearable. He is very happy, extremely happy. He came and sat on things just when they were wanted to be packed, and he labored under the fixed belief, labored working. Wherever George or Harris reached out their hands for anything, it was his cold, damp nose that they wanted. So he was under the belief that whenever they wanted something, they wanted his nose. He put his leg into the jam, and he worried the teaspoons, and he pretended the lemons were rats and got into the hampers and killed 3 of them before Harris could land him with the frying pan, as you can see in the picture. So he got into the jam, he got into the hampers, he killed 3 lemons, assuming them to be rats, and then finally this person has to land up, Harris has to land up with a frying pan. Harris said, I encouraged him. I didn't encourage him. A dog like that doesn't want any encouragement. It's the natural original sin that is born in him that makes him things do like that. So he says it's not me, it was his natural desire to do something that he did it. The packing was done at 12:50, imagine 2 hours, and Harris sat on the big hamper. After completing the food basket, he sat on the basket, imagine what kind of people these are, and said he hoped nothing would be broken. George said that if anything was broken, it was broken. So George is very like, okay, it's broken, which reflection seemed to comfort him. The thought was comforting him. Toot gaya to toot gaya. He also said he was ready for bed. We all were ready for bed. Harris was to sleep with us that night, and we went upstairs. Because George and Jerome were living together, so Harris has to sleep here because they have to have a journey next day. We tossed for beds, and Harris had to sleep with me. He said, do you prefer the inside or the outside chair? He's asking which side of the bed will you sleep, the side which comes to outside or inside. I said I generally prefer to sleep inside a bed. He said I sleep in a bed. I don't sleep outside the bed. Okay, so he has not understood what he is actually asking. Harris said it was odd. George said, "What time shall I wake you fellows? What time should you be like to waken up?" Harris said 7. I said no 6 because I wanted to write some letters. Imagine 2 hours he was seeing these people fooling about with the packing. He could have written letters that time, but he did not write. Harris and I had a bit of row over it. They had a fight over it, but at last split the difference and said 6:30. So they agreed to be woken up at 6:30. Wake up at 6:30, George, we said. George made no answer, and we found on going over that he had fallen asleep for some time. George was already sleeping. So we placed the bath, the tub, where he could tumble into on getting out in the morning and went to bed ourselves. So they kept the bathtub so that when he gets up, he will fall in that and he will not make a mess of him. And then they went to sleep. So this is the end of it. And I have already shared with you the question answers, the summary. And in case of any doubts and other things, feel free to contact me. Okay, I hope this video would help you with the chapter. Thank you.